And all righty. Hello, everybody, and welcome to A Lot of Help with James Lott Jr. I am James Lott Jr. and we're here to help a lot. Yes, I pun all the time. We're here on JLJ Media, my online network. Please welcome. It is Tuesday morning after the new year. Happy New Year, folks. We made it through the portal. We're here so far. Hopefully, wherever you are safe and you're doing okay. I know there's some crazy stuff going on out there and going around. I had a COVID scare last week myself, came back negative. It's a little crazy out there, but we're here to give some talk and some interesting stuff to listen to and think about. And my guest today, we're going to do just that. I got some questions for her. As you guys know, I got to do all this stuff myself. So let me close that screen. All these screens I close. Okay, there we go. The chat room is open. If you want to say anything or have any comments or questions, go in there and in the chat room. Let me read you a little bit of her credits. She's a star. She's a star. She is a healing activist and teacher of clinical hypnosis, intuition, and international healing practices for over 20 years. She's a founder of the School of the Healing Arts. Or is it Artist? Or
Artist, yes.
Artist. That's right. See, my Spanish was I thought so. Vanessa is most passionate about helping individuals develop their own inner resources, where her wellness expertise has been featured on many things. And I'm happy to have her. We're going to talk about hypnosis, wellness. You can learn a little bit about her, of course. I want to make sure I say her name correctly. Vanessa Codorniu.
Oh, you got it.
I got it.
Yes, gracias.
Hola, Vanessa. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm just happy to meet you. I'm happy to be here today.
We were talking off camera. We're buddies now, so it's all good. Well, thanks for coming to the show. I've done the show about 3 years, and I'm telling you, I get the most interesting guests. And this one came across my desk, and I was like, So I first want to start with, we hear there's newer words, newer language always evolve in the wellness community, correct?
Yeah.
And so the latest words that have been coming out are trauma and triggers. So I just want you to talk about what does that exactly mean to you? What does a trigger mean? And then trauma is a broad word, but like, let's start with triggers first. Like, I've been hearing these words like, this could trigger you. People are like, what does that mean? Can you kind of talk about what that means?
So a trigger is connected to an experience that you actually had or was passed down ancestrally, right? So it's conscious and unconscious that you have in your energetic system, mind, body, and spirit. So it's rooted in an experience or a trauma, something painful, something that harmed you, something that shocked you, something that disrupted your mental health, mind, body, spirit. And the trigger is something that comes by that usually isn't related, but it could be related, that kind of sets it off. So it sets off the trauma, it brings it to the surface. So it's conscious and unconscious. And so a trigger could be, you've had a sexual trauma, right, of some sort.
I've been raped. I talk about all my shows. I've talked about.
Okay, I didn't know that about you. So have I, right? And so it's really important when we have a conversation like this, or there's a movie where there's explicit language or a scene of abuse, that we say, warning. If you've had this, please be careful. You don't want it to just hit you in the face. And so it's something that reminds you and brings to the surface the experience that you had. And then it brings you back to that place where you were when it originally happened. And so it's really important for us to know what our triggers are. Like, I could give I'll give an example from a client. So a client shared with me that they grew up in a home where their parents fought all the time, especially around holidays, especially around birthdays, to the point where they threw Christmas trees down, stomped all over them, threw out gifts through the windows. And so she tends to spend Christmases and holidays alone because she doesn't want to be triggered by anybody's drama, right? This person's been in therapy, they work with me. And what a trigger would be for her would be, let's say she's invited to a holiday or something, and somebody's huffing and puffing, or there's passive aggressive energy where it's not obvious, they're smiling, but they're like needling each other and putting each other down. That's a trigger that could awaken that pain pattern, that experience that they've already encountered, and bring it to the surface.
That's that. And also, you just said something I want to get into a little bit too, is that because you and I both were just talking about our ancestry, and I'm fully in tune to all that, and I'm always researching and looking. Generational trauma. That's something that it's a term that's being used more and more. It's been happening the last couple of years, especially with Black Lives Movement and the Latinx community, and it's kind of happening more and more now. I was trying to explain to somebody, and they still couldn't really get it. They're thinking like, how? Well, so something happened to your aunt. I'm like, something happened to your father and your grandfather, how does it affect you? I'm like, everything affects you, right?
Absolutely. And especially when we're dealing with the seen and unseen. And I'm going to give you a specific example to make it clear. And I'll talk about me for a moment. So my great grandfather had work stolen, like literally stolen his work, and somebody took credit for it. That on one end, my mom's side. Then my mom was writing for television, or trying to write for television in the 60s. And she was writing for a woman who then stole her whole story and never gave her credit. And my mom got so mad, she shut down, never wrote for TV again, right? My dad came up with a business idea and told a friend of his, and the person also went out and copied it, stole it, right? So when it came to me, they were like very pressurizing when I was like, I want to write, I want to do, but people would steal from you. People would do this from you. People would do this from you. So historically, I had a friend who like ripped off some of my articles from my website, published it somewhere. But you know, my guides, my spirit was like, girl, Google her. And I did. And I was like, oh shit, there's my article. So, you know, spirit was, my ancestors had my back.
Yes.
And then it's happened, like somebody stole my branding, a dear friend of mine. Somebody did, even last year, somebody in my school, and everybody's really cool in my school, but there must be somebody in there that's not.
Of course, yeah.
Who took a link, sold it or posted it, and there were 3.5 thousand downloads of my course, right? Now, what I could, right. So what I could do with all these experiences, just shut down and not do this.
Oh, yeah.
Or I could be, F this, I'm clearing this out. I don't care. I mean, not that I'm inviting people to steal.
Right.
I'm going to keep rising. I'm going to keep creating, because you can't steal this. And so, and also to protect myself. Like something happened where I went and I was able to secure the trademark for ancestral hypnosis healing. Okay, right? Because I started doing it. I didn't see anybody else doing it. So we could, when we have generational trauma and generational patterns, we will back off. I've had clients call me. They're like, I'm exhausted. Love is not for me. I'm getting divorced, but I expected it. I'm like, how so? Well, my mother raised me alone. My grandmother raised me alone, because we're too strong. We're strong women. Men can't handle it. Really? Or is it the people you're picking because of the trauma that you expect to be left, right? The undercurrent.
Yes.
Right. And also strength. I'm strong, but I'm not trying to boss my husband around. That doesn't mean I don't tell him about himself when he needs it. He tells me about myself. He'll be like, hey, you know,
right.
Excuse me. And so we do speak honestly with each other. So it's like, and sometimes you don't even know it's trauma. For example, you're starting a business or doing something. People will be like, oh, being an artist or being a creative, you're going to be poor. Or no, you're never going to make any money off of that. You don't have any money to begin with, or you're not the right type of person. You don't have all the money. You don't have this. Right. Yeah, me too. Somebody told me, I came out as an urban priestess like 18 years ago. I was told by top PR people in New York City, mind you, that I would never make it with the urban priestess. That was before everybody online was like, I'm a priestess, you know.
Right, you're right, exactly right. Yeah,
right. I was like, are you kidding me? I was a visionary. Leave me alone. But you have to break. And sometimes they're unspoken because you accept them as facts and truths.
Yeah, it's true. And I decided to change my whole life at 40. I mean, where I lived, my job, relationship, I just canceled it all. And it was during the recession, it was 2008. During the recession, everybody thought it was crazy talk. I had a great job. I mean, no, let me say the lie back. I had a great paying job, but I hated the job. The job was not, I stayed there years too long than I should have. It stopped serving its purpose for me years in it. But I stayed. You better the devil you know, right? So I stayed. But once I realized it was not the right fit for me anymore, my stomach was like, you have to move. My gut was hurting. It was telling me like, James, you have to make a change. So everyone was like, you're crazy, making good money. How can you give this up? Never been an apartment. You have this. I'm like, I'm not happy. I'm like screaming, I'm not happy. I will live with less if I have to for a while. And they were like, you crazy. 13 years later, 4 years later, I'm successful, I'm doing fine. But that's the whole point, is that the people behind us are living their truth, what they think they see because they went through it during that time period. So they unwittingly pass it down to you, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's unknowingly. And it's even, I mean, we have this is very true. This is very real because it's economic, about families staying together because of economic circumstances, but they're super unhappy, sometimes stepping out on the marriage, etc., both of them. And I always say to people when I work with them, I'm like, you know that a happy parent is a happy kid. Because
Yeah.
kids are so intuitive. They just came in from the other side. They popped in. They depend on you for love, for growth, for guidance. And they're seeing you cry secretly at night when you go to sleep.
They do.
Or
They do.
or you're tight, right? No, you can't go play with the kid,
Kids
right?
know everything. Kids are sponges. They see everything. I try to tell my daughters, I'm a grandfather, so watching the kids, parent sometimes, I'm like, they see what you're doing. You're an example. Like literally, you're an example. They see it. I'm glad you said that.
Totally. No, it's so important. And look, there's compassion for all of us because we're all doing the best we can.
Yes. Yes.
And then it's like I remember my husband's stepdaughter moved in with us. Nobody asked us. She kind of like was plopped out, which was okay because there's love and we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
But we made a pact. We're like, let's leave the house to discuss.
Ooh, good idea. Good idea.
Because sometimes the discussion was like, let me tell you something, right? And it was just like intense. And we literally were like, we're gonna go take a walk, and then we'd get in the car and drive away and be like, okay, no, I'm kidding. But we were like, let's unpack this because we didn't even want her to hear what the hell her mom didn't communicate. We don't know what's happening. We don't know how long she's here. We don't know what's happening. We didn't want her to hear or think or feel that she wasn't loved or wanted. So we weren't going to have the discussion like that.
Yeah, my daughter, her mother and I were not married or together, but we made a pact that we were going to discuss things separately, almost like you separately, and then make a decision and be united on the decision. So she always says, so later she jokes like, yeah, because you're like, yeah, talk to him, or I'll talk to her, and I try to guess, whatever. But we were always in sync. The answers were always the same. Like, so yeah, because once if we had to fight it out, we fought it out.
Yeah.
But for us, for me, it came from a place of it's none of your business. We're the adults. We're gonna make this say, well, you don't see everything we're doing. It's like, that's none of your business. So when we come together in front of you, here's the united front. So we always
because kids need to be kids, and and all of us, I'm sure your family, my family, they weren't sometimes. They were. I'm the oldest daughter. I was changing diapers at 10.
Well, same here. Girl, we're latchkey kids too.
Oh my God.
That time period. You got a key around your neck. You came home. Parents were at work or whatever, or they're doing whatever they're doing. Or you said there's so many kids in the house that you got to pitch in.
Oh yeah,
I was doing laundry at 9. I was doing laundry.
Right. I was bottle feeding at 10, and then at 11 and a half, 12, I had a second one. So I had one on one hip, one on the other.
Exactly.
If I got caught microwaving the milk, my mom would get mad. She's like, "You're not supposed to do that." I'm like, "Bro, I'm tired. I want to go watch my TV show."
Exactly.
So I give thanks that I have those skills, right? Because people are like, you don't have children of your own, but when I have a baby, they're like, "But you're good." I'm like, "Well, I grew up on it."
Yeah,
but it's so important to be aware of these things that we are truly impacted, whether it's fear of relationship, or it's codependency, or overspending, or afraid to spend, or afraid to live our lives. Like, I take my hat off to you. That's amazing. Like, you ended all the things and stepped out to get yours at 40.
Yeah, I said, and I try to be an example for my industry that, any age is never too late. As long as you wake up the next day, you can always change, right? As long as you wake up, you can always have a chance. And I think there are a lot of later in life success stories like that out there.
Me too.
In the business outside, there are a lot of them. There are a lot of them. Where just go, that's it. I'm 45. I'm 50. It's never too late, folks. And that's my thing. We have to break the cycles. We have to, because a lot of folks, we just go through the motions of that's just how it is. We kind of accept things, don't we, a little easier than we should. The bad things too, don't we?
Oh, well, like the women are all crazy, and
right, yes.
And men are dogs and they suck.
Right.
Like that's like the most basic, right, thing that a lot of people accept.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when we do attract people who are not honest, it's matching up with the trauma inside of us, because there's a part of us that expects that.
Yes.
And fears it.
Yeah. There are folks in the chat room. Hi, folks. Films 55555. Texas Ranger. They have some questions. We'll get to those questions next. Actually, I'm going to lead into that next. They saw the title, so they're getting these questions ahead of it. We're going to lead into that. I'm going to lead into those questions next. That's we were talking about the behind the scenes stuff like trauma. And my next question to you also is, this is something I never asked anybody this question ever in my life. It came up to me. I'm thinking about it right now. Okay. When I was growing up, I actually was a teenager growing up, I kept hearing this statistic that we only use 10% of our brain or something like that. Is that a true statement anymore? Have you found anything new? Because you're into subconscious and conscious. Like what part of that is true anymore or not?
I was reading some material the other day, and it said that What they mean by that is that we use 10-15% of our brain consciously.
Okay.
And then there's like the breathing and the heartbeat and the blood surging through our body and the bile being created in the digestive system. That's not a conscious.
Okay, right.
We don't sit there and be like, we got to move this finger now, right? I'm going to blink, right? So that's part of it. I also, being spiritual, believe, and and if somebody's watching, by the way, you don't have to believe in spirit or the universe or God to have hypnosis work for you. Okay. There are deep inner resources of our unconscious mind where we have more courage, where we have the capacity to release patterns. We have the capacity to unearth patterns that we didn't know about. And so, yes, I think that with the 10%, it's more like the 10% is the conscious part. The other part is all these systems that are happening in our bodies that we're not conscious of at all. Like, I'm going to sleep now. I'm going to wake up now, and I'm in rapid eye movement, deep sleep. These are things that we don't do. But there's also another part of us, and we can call it. I like to call it the spirit. Some people call it the unconscious. Some people call it the psyche. Some people call it the collective unconscious, and some people call it our inner knowing or intuition. There's a bigger part of us that we don't know that knows better than our everyday self, because our everyday self is supposed to incarnate and have these challenges, break these patterns. And, our souls are like, hey, okay, good, you're doing good. And a lot of the things that we might call, or my society might call a mistake, they're actually challenges that are meant to guide us into more courage, resiliency, strength, bliss, and awareness. So yes, there's a conscious part of our brain. And I want to just share one thing, and I know you have so many questions, but let's say we say things like, I want to work out, right? So your everyday 10% brain's like, I got to work out, I bought the outfit, I got this, I got the gym, I got everything. And they don't do it, you don't do it. Right. The part that's holding you back is the subconscious. So you're like, I don't get why I'm not going. People call me and I'm like, have you ever worked out before? And they're like, yes, I did. How was it? I felt great. I felt amazing. Did anything happen? Well, at that point, I got attacked. I got mugged. My husband left me, my boy, something. It created stress with my husband or my wife, right? They thought I looked too cute. People backstabbed me at work because they said I look too cute. I thought full of myself. I'd rather be a little chubby, protect myself. These are things that literally happen in a session. And I'm like, but do you understand that you're not a failure at going to the gym? You are trying to protect yourself and what you have right now. And that's when you start working with the unconscious to make it conscious. That's where we can heal and reset the patterns.
Okay, so we got more questions. Okay, everybody got questions. Okay. I'll get to you. I'm gonna ask this first question, which will lead into your guys' questions out there, which I want to know the same things. Okay. When you hear the word hypnosis, everybody thinks of like entertainment stuff, thinks all these kind of things. Now, I actually can admit I've never told the story. I was hypnotized once, and for a purpose that I needed, get over a trauma. So people know this if you follow my stuff. My father and I don't have a close relationship. I kept saying things like I don't have a good memory with him ever. But there was some kind of thing for 20 years I chased after him to make him love me. I recognize years of therapy, I figured that out later, but I realized that's what I was doing. And I want to figure out why, if I don't have any good memories, then why am I trying so hard? Hypnosis told me that, and actually an aunt and uncle confirmed this. When I was a baby, I was the apple of his eye. For some reason, so I'm James Jr. But everybody agreed something changed at some point, and he stopped. So through hypnosis, I realized I was searching for that feeling again from him.
Yeah,
I see she gets it. I know she got, and that was very powerful. I saw like a baby afterwards, but I was like, it was very interesting. I was like, I was like, why am I chasing after this guy who clearly wants something to do with me? And it was clear that I had it at one time. It was loving. It was beautiful. It was warm. It was like, and it was snatched from me. Is that interesting? So I had hypnosis moments. I did do it once.
And how did you feel after that? I also am nodding because I went through similar.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very loving to.
I know. I wept, but in a happy. It was like a happy weeping. It was like, I know that sounds weird, but it was like I was like, I felt like I got an answer.
Relief.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Relief. My coffee's like,
yes.
Relief. I felt relief. So when I was crying, and I was smiling and crying. So I was like, oh my God, that's what it is. Okay. I'm like, and that really helped me now deal with him. From that point on, it changed everything.
Yes. And it was one session. And that's what I love about hypnosis. I think that therapy is amazing. And I think that therapy helps us because, you do go to hypnotist, you do it one time, you do 2, 3, maybe 5, but the therapist is the one who's going to be every week with you doing the ins and outs, helping you unpack everything over time. So I always like it in combination. I always, recommend and say that. But I can say this, that even the first time I ever did hypnosis was in college. I wasn't trained, but I came to this country when I was a little kid. I used to have a very heavy accent. I used to speak like this all the time, and you would think though that math would be easy for somebody who didn't have the language because it's international. But because I didn't have the language, from a young age, I feared math. So I get into college. I'm terrified, sweaty palms, fear. I'm great at everything else. English, my top thing. So I run into the library or to the bookstore and I get this book, Self-Hypnosis, create the cassette, because, it's back in the day.
Yes.
Where I release the fear. I went from a C- in math to A-, because it really wasn't applicable. It wasn't that I couldn't get it. It was that there was a fear instilled at a certain age. And even to find my partner, I did hypnosis to release past pain, right? And past patterning that was leading me to certain choices. And I met him a month later, many years later. We got married this year. Finally, we had to reschedule the wedding because COVID so many times. But there's a thing about hypnosis that goes directly to the root, gives you the answer, allows you to forgive on a deeper level, and sets you freer.
Yeah, it did. I felt free. Text Rangers family, ask you a question second. I'm gonna ask this one first. Root King wants to know, besides yourself, has there been a hypnosis you've witnessed performed that was so powerful it gave you goosebumps?
Oh, for you or me?
For you.
Oh my God, absolutely. Because I have a couple of hypnosis today. So I do hypnosis. I do hypnosis 4 times a day, 5 days a week. And I do. And, it's a little out there what I'm going to say, but this was a person who was doing really well, an artist who was struggling with everything in their life. And it wound up that they had a soul attachment. And it wasn't somebody who was alive. I know it's a little out there, but it was an energy that was stuck to them. And when we finally released it, she was sobbing. And what brought her to me, we were working together. She was doing so well. She was improving. And then it was like something out of nowhere came and sabotaged her. She drank, was unconscious, woke up in somebody's house. Never happened to her in her life. She's like, I was doing so great, so happy. And suddenly this happened. And then in hypnosis, this energy came out like, I don't really care what happens to her. Right. When we got rid of that energy and she came out, she's like, I never shared with you that. And the energy was male. She goes, I don't shave my armpits and I don't shave my legs, which doesn't mean anything about gender at all. It's just sharing the story. Right. And within days, she went out, changed her closet, changed her wardrobe, and never, ever went through that again. But I got goosebumps because literally it was this other energy in them. Right. There were also people who were afraid to have a baby. Oh, this is a beautiful one. So I had somebody who was afraid to have a child and couldn't do it, did IVF, did everything. And no one had ever asked them, was there any sexual trauma? I was the one who asked. The therapist didn't ask. So we had to do this deep clearing. She already had a baby before. No, she had never had a baby before. Sorry, that's another story. And she was like, I'm not going to be able, but she thought that this part was bad because of what happened to her as a baby being touched. Right? The reproductive system is dirty and bad. And so how could she let a baby be born in there?
Right.
To heal it, release it. I did breath work in the hypnosis, got chills because I saw the children she was going to have. She naturally gave birth to 2 boys within 3 years after that. Another story real quick. A woman called me, Vanessa, this will be the last one for this question. She said, Vanessa, I'm 42. I'm pregnant again after 20 years. I cannot go through cesarean. Do you understand? I'm a single mother. I cannot. You got to breach. This baby's breech. You got to turn it around. I'm like, I'll do what I can, girl. I'll do what I can. So we went in, and based on the questions, she was so furious at the first husband who left her, right? With the first baby who was 20 years old. The man who now she had this baby with also left her. So she was so mad. The baby was turned around like, nah, I'm not coming out.
Exactly. I look at that, yes.
Right. And so we had her forgive, which I said, we're going to have to go in and probably do forgiveness work, forgive, release, and then tell the baby subconsciously, we love you. You're so wanted. She went 3 days later to get a sonogram before they were going to decide to do this. The baby had turned. And that gave me goosebumps because she sent me a text, said, thank you.
My goodness.
The baby turned.
But see, it makes sense to me. But Vanessa, it makes sense to me. It's kind of like, our energy affects, especially if you're a woman growing a human inside of you. I'm not surprised it's affecting them too. When they go, oh, it's gonna go crazy out there. Maybe I'll just do this, or maybe I'll stay in 2 weeks late. Like my daughter's 2 weeks late. I'm like, you were ready to come out, weren't you? Like it's kind of like, it's just really, I'm not surprised. Like I just don't, that kind of energy. I'm not surprised. That's
exactly, because it makes sense to us. And look, hypnosis has been developed in the last hundreds of years, but I think it has deeper roots. It has roots with trance, with drumming, with chanting. And so as an indigenous people all over the world, we're doing their own brand of hypnosis to get to the subconscious, and so we've been doing this work.
Yeah, I have an uncle. Uncle Harold is known as Drummer Lott, and here in South LA, he's been making his own drums for 40, 50 years. Drum circles, they do a bunch of stuff. So I grew up with that actually. So I have one of his drums over there somewhere, but I love it. Okay, the next question, which will lead into the next thing. Text Ranger fan wants to know, what does hypnosis do to the brain? Is it tricking the brain, redirecting the brain? What?
Well, that's really interesting. So what it does, it slows down the brain waves. And so we have deeper access to relaxation, because when they're faster, when we're breathing faster, we're like, there's more anxiety, there's more energy, right?
Yeah.
And they're more on alert. When we do hypnosis, it's a deep relaxation of our muscles, of our mind, body, and spirit. And I haven't studied the brain to that level to answer the question, to give you exact research or anything like that. But I know that you go into theta waves, and so you go into deep relaxation. Whenever you go into deep relaxation, what you do to the brain and the rest of the body is create a habitat for healing. Right? When we talk about Reiki, right? Energy
Yes.
healing,
Oh, yeah.
right?
I know friends with Reiki masters.
Right.
Yeah.
And I do that too. And I train people. And so what happens is, if you can let go of your everyday and relax into this deep theta state, your body's going to naturally try to heal itself. And so it's a healing space. I can say that I do a lot of self-hypnosis. And what that does for me is I've been able to manage, I lost half my family in 2020, right? So I lost my dad, my mom, my younger brother. I have a sister and a brother left, thank God.
Wow.
But I did a lot of, I cried every day. I let it out. I drummed, I chanted, I did my thing. I tended to myself. But the hypnosis part let me allow myself to release the stress. I can't lose another one, because I started to get that energy every time the phone rang. Oh my God, what's wrong with my other brother? What's wrong with my sister? Right.
Yes,
so I had to use self-hypnosis to allow my theta waves to take over the brain, for me to be in a state of deep relaxation and trust, rather than on high alert. High alert will give us stress, will give us diseases, because it brings us imbalance. It screws with our chemistry. And then anything else that we're dealing with or going through genetically, or just from the food we eat or the life we live, it can help create diseases. And so a little hypnosis, even if it's once a week or 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, can help us live and be in greater state of wellness.
Well, I meditate every morning, so for an hour. And I started this practice when the pandemic started. Well, actually, the lockdown. So everybody, March 17th, 2020, my life changed forever, because everything shut down. Hollywood shut down, my other business shut down, like everything shut down. And I was like, what am I going to do? I'm an entrepreneur. What am I going to do? I work in Hollywood. What am I going to do? And no one knew anything. And in LA, it shut down for like 3 months. But in the beginning, I was like, I don't want to go crazy. I got to figure this out. And when you say this stuff, to me, it's very simple. When you shut down and start breathing, the clarity comes.
Absolutely.
The answers come when you quiet yourself down naturally. This is hypnosis or no hypnosis. I'm just saying, even meditation, I can think much clearer about stuff. Answers come to me. I also noticed, Vanessa, since I've been almost doing 2 years, every 2 years in March, been doing it. My dreams are much more powerful. I dream content. My friend was saying, he goes, James, I dreamt this episode of a show I wrote. I'm a songwriter. I wrote a song. I dreamt a show. I dreamt an artist. I dreamt a painting. Like ever since I started doing that, it got brighter inside my brain, I guess, or something. I don't know.
Yes, because you're tapping into those theta waves. You're allowing your body to restore itself. And I was saying that hypnosis, meditation, dance, chanting, they allow us to release the everyday and stop thinking
Yes.
about the future,
Yes.
stressing the future, feeling bad about the past, be in the present moment, right? And when we're in present moment, everything is possible. Creativity is an all-time high. And so I think it's amazing. When I had to cancel a wedding years ago and lost 3 stepkids, I was already belly dancing, but I started belly dancing like 6 days a week. And people were like, are you going crazy? You're going to go be a belly dancer. But what it was is the minute that my feet touched that wooden floor, and I looked to my sisters on the right, my sisters on the left, and the music started, and we were like doing our little na 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 na. I was in that present moment where my brain was just breathing, flowing, feeling, breathing, flowing, feeling. And so that's the same thing. So it can happen with singing, painting, art, walks in nature. And that's the beauty of alternative healing, right? Hypnosis, Reiki, meditation, is that there's a flavor for everybody. So if you're like, I can't sit still and do meditation, well, you could do Tai Chi, you could do
Yeah.
dance. And so we do have access. And I love that you're dreaming content.
Yeah, no, I know. My friend's like, how you dreamt that? I go, yeah, I literally dreamt it. I woke up, I had my phone nearby, hummed the song, then I went back to sleep. I like my sleep, folks. I like to sleep. I went back to sleep, and in the morning worked it out. Or I'll think of an idea for a show, and literally my hands are typing. It's just going. Like it's just coming out. And in 20 minutes, I got something. Like, oh, okay, you did it in 20 minutes. I go, it's happening all the time. I'm just saying that it's increased since I've slowed down. Like, slow the F down, people.
Yes.
We have, like, that to me, that's a big message with hypnosis, with this, and also just like we're running. And it's like, and this whole crazy busy, especially in LA. I'm crazy busy. I'm crazy. That's not a badge of honor, Vanessa. It isn't. I get 2 hours of sleep a night. That's not a badge of honor. That isn't anymore.
And we have to break from it, because I have to admit, like, I was like that for years, but I also
me too.
And my rent was like $2K, and I was in Manhattan. Yeah. I was over the bridge in Queens, but still I could see the Empire State Building. If I leaned down my window like this, no. But it's like, you're like,
yeah.
And also the fear that if you jump out of that intensity, that you won't be, like, you're going to fall behind, you're going to fall behind. And so, but that, and I didn't, so I'm from New York City, right? I did not want to leave New York. My husband, Kurdish, who lived in Pennsylvania, we met, and I moved. Right now, I couldn't have owned a home in New York, I'll be honest, because even in Queens, a crappy house with no front, no back was $1 million, right? And near New York City, not far out, right?
Yeah.
Where it was accessible. We were able to buy a home, and there's a lot of nature. And as much as I miss my diversity, I miss my people, I miss my spiritual community of 20 years. I'm like, spirit knew, because COVID came, and my ass was walking around in nature, like, no COVID in my face, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
It was just like. And so, yeah, it's within our reach. It's like, we do have to break the pattern of the immediate, like, get out of work and immediate Netflix and chill, which, hey, we all love our Hulu, Netflix, and Amazon. HBO Max, all the things.
Yes.
All of that. I never watched so much TV in my life. I never did. I used to work in casting, by the way. NYPD Blues, and I didn't even know one day that I was talking to Dennis Franz, right, one of the leads, because I didn't watch TV, okay? And we're sitting there, and I'm like, I'll split the bagel with you, and we like split it. We're talking, and I walk away, and people are like, how does it feel to talk to a TV star? I go, ooh. So at that point, but it is accessible. And there's so much now. There's so much available now online.
So when it comes to hypnosis, is it scary? People always ask me, was it scary to do it? Like, were you afraid they're going to bark like a dog or something? I'm like, they have these weird things the media have said about hypnosis over the years for, like, media projects. It's like, I told them, it wasn't like that at all. Like, it wasn't anything. It was like a regular session that I had with my therapist, but it was a different technique that day.
Totally.
It wasn't anything crazy.
Exactly. And so, the movie Get Out, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Come on, like, really? And so, you know what I mean? And by the way, I do serve a big population of BIPOC and Latinx, everyone really, but that's one of the first things that they say. And one of the things that I say is, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. Okay. Now, has hypnosis been used for bad? Sure. Everything could be used, for the bad. Have governments probably used it with POWs and used hypnosis techniques to mess with their mind? and torture people, I'm sure. But for us, what we're just doing is putting you into a relaxed state. So one of the things I always tell people is like, make sure you talk to the hypnotist before you do this work. You have to have rapport. You have to feel like, you know what? I trust this person. They're not here to harm me. They're not here to, and I'll say this, when people come to me and they say, oh, I want to give up smoking because my wife is driving me crazy. And I'll be like, but do you really want to? And when they say no, I don't work with them. And they're like, and then I ask them a couple questions, but they're like, no, I like it. I'm not afraid. I don't care. I was like, so you're just doing it for them. Chances are it may not work. Right. So why am I going to take their money, take their time?
Right. Yeah.
So I'm very like that. I'm very like, come to me when something happens within you that you're like, I'm doing this for me. And they do come back like 5 months, 6 months, a year later. And so one of the things that I make sure is that the person really wants to change that they want for themselves, that they're ready to face the thing that is really holding them back. And that's what I would say is like, when you're ready, I'm ready. And I'm going to use all the skills I got and we're going to go in there and get to the root of it. And that's the shocking thing, I think, for most people. It is very relaxing. You're not knocked out. If there's a bird chirping outside your window or in the parking lot, you're going to hear it, but it's not going to matter because your inner focus is in your breath going in and out, your deep relaxation, and then in healing and doing the healing process.
Yeah, it felt literally normal to me, and that's why in the chat I was like, yeah, but it must be difficult for someone with trust issues. Well, that's a whole other story, right? Kind of, I mean,
yes, and you know, that's why you have to be with someone that you have rapport with.
Yeah, makes sense.
There's so many hypnotists and hypnotherapists and therapists out there. You want to work with somebody like this person's got my back. Yeah. And so I always have a free chat with people, right? For 30 minutes, just to figure it out. So they don't come in like fresh and they don't know me. Yeah. I want people to feel like they're comfortable because and I have, for me, I approach it with deep, like, to me, it's sacred work. I think that some hypnotists see it very much as technical and logical. They don't see it connected to spirituality because it's very evidence-based. There is evidence now that shows that like 6 or more sessions can help reduce anxiety, that this number of sessions can help smoking cessation. But I don't look at it that way. And some of the hypnotists say to me, wow, your first session is very long. I'm like, yeah, because I do a sort of an intake in hypnosis. So when I go in, I ask separate questions and I find out if what you're dealing with, is it a present life trauma? And your subconscious will tell me. I ask if it's an ancestral pattern. All right. I ask if it's past life. That's only if the client allows me. I let them know. And then we start working with all the levels, right?
Yeah. One of the things that I'm thinking about this, it's been a thought. I haven't decided yet. My fear of flying. I fly all the time though. I mean, I get on, you have to get on a plane, but I don't like it anytime. And I don't have a fear of crashing. I don't like turbulence. I have fear of turbulence. I know what that is. But I thought about using hypnosis to help me do that at some point. So that's what I'm really thinking about. I mean, seriously, I was thinking before I even met you, I think maybe that could be something that could help me with therapy with that, because you have to fly. I mean, for me, you have to fly. I mean, that's the fastest way to get anywhere. And I have family over the country and work, and I have speaking engagements. It's slowed down a bit because of COVID, but I'm sure we're going on a plane again at some point.
I think you absolutely should do it, James. You should absolutely do it. I was in a car accident in 2012, right? And 10 years ago, December 21st, it was the end of the Mayan calendar, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, my goodness.
My guys were like, sit up straight. I did. And so when it all happened and we started rolling, I held on. But the turbulence of the car and the glass breaking, I didn't realize that it did something to me. And next thing I knew, I was on a plane like a year later, and it started to have a lot of turbulence. And I started to have a reaction, a trigger. I was triggered.
Triggered. There you go. Back to the trigger, yes.
And I was like, pulling out my lavender, sniffing it, praying, all this.
Yeah, all the stuff. Yes.
All the stuff. Yeah. And then I was like, what is it? What is it? It's the turbulence of the car accident. Wow. So then when I landed, I did some self-hypnosis to clear it. And I just got off a plane, right, last night. Yeah. And there was a little turbulence. I was fine. I was chilling, Well,
because I do want to figure out where, because I've been flying since I was 9 years old. I'm talking flying to like Hawaii when I was 9, flying to New York on TWA. I missed my TWA, my TWA Airlines. I used to go back and forth because my grandparents were in New York. Shout out to Brooklyn, shout out to Prospect Park. I used to fly out there as a kid. And so I get on the planes, and like I said, and most I mean, I've flown maybe 1,000 times this point. I had a job, we flew every other week. But every time I hated it. I had anxiety every single time I flew, but I knew I had to do it to get there. Most of my flights are fine. Most of them are not. To me, they're fine. They're smooth most part and everything. But it's like, I want to figure out where it came. I don't know where I really don't know where it came. Consciously, I don't know where it came from. Consciously, I guess I'm like, so I remember having I had some crazy flights out there from flying. They're more comical now to me than anything. But I'm like, well, where did it start? So I had this fear before that. So I'm trying to figure out did something happen on a plane, or maybe something else? Maybe something else. You just said you're
right. It could be something else. Like I had a woman here in Pennsylvania reach out. She goes, Vanessa, I finally am building a new relationship, and I promised that I would drive to meet their family, blah, 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 over a bridge. I haven't been able to drive over a bridge for 6 years. She literally stops before the bridge, puts her head down, starts to shake and cry. And then she has to call somebody to come and help her. And so we had a good conversation. I did ask what happened, if anything had happened to her on a bridge. And she's like, no. And I'm like, when did you separate from your ex-husband? She said 6 years ago. I said, which is aligned to crossing a bridge. You know, crossing a bridge is getting to the other side. Crossing a bridge helps you get to the other side, right? Helps you get. And I said, did anything happen 6 years ago that led you? It was like, he threatened my life. So we had to do forgiveness, the whole thing, and then have her envision herself going through the bridge and feeling fine and getting to the other side. So this was a rush job. She's like, I need it now because I'm driving in 3 days. I'm like, I wish you gave me more time.
Yeah, hello.
She texted me, and she said, I got to the other side and I was fine.
Oh, wow, okay.
Thank you. And so it could happen that fast that you get into that state, tap into that reservoir, tap into that resource, you forgive that person, release that energy, and you set that new vision for yourself where you're like, hey, I'm just on a bridge. It's all cool.
Yeah.
And that's to me, it's like magical.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what I'm thinking. I feel like it's something maybe not related to plans. Like, so far I can't think of anything when I was a kid that like would my flights were fine. I mean, I don't remember anything crazy. So yeah, but before I met you, I was thinking about that. I was just thinking about, I was like, maybe I've done some therapy and stuff. And I kind of identified on like flying, but like, I want to find out like really what is this? What is this? Because
the thing is that you do it anyway. You just get on and do it anyway.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I have to get on planes. I get on planes. You just have to get on them. That's just kind of.
I mean, it's definitely. I mean, for many people, maybe not you, loss of control.
Yeah, there's that too, right? I can see that.
I once got on a tiny plane in Panama, and I told people, no, get in front of me, get in front of me. They're like, why? And they're like, because I want to be near the door. And the person goes, why? And my brain went back to get out. But it was like, girl, you ain't going nowhere. If this thing crashes, you are not getting out that door. So it doesn't matter.
Girlfriend, I was a person who was like, okay, my seats. If I can't pick my seat, this is how it was before. If I can't pick my seat, because I had these things where sit by the wing, be fine, by the window. So I don't like flying, but I want to look outside. So sometimes I was like, my brain was like, I'm sure I can look outside. Or I should do the back of the plane. And I was like, the back of these, like the back plane, they say back of planes are usually the safest or whatever. Like, whatever I read and heard, I was like, whatever I could do to calm myself down and get on a plane. So here's what's funny. So a little quick story, folks, a little side story. Orange County, John Wayne Airport does this thing. They have a noise ordinance. So after it gets dark, they can't have planes really flying out, but they do have a few. I did not know this. My friend and I got on a plane who knew this already. So get on the plane. It was for earlier, but we got delayed. That that happens too. So we're in the back of the plane, and they go, "Hi, folks," as we're taxiing to the to the runway. "Hi, folks, you've never flown out of John Wayne Airport at this time. We're going to tell you how it's going to go." And literally, they explain. I'm sitting there and explain it as we're going to taxi the runway quietly, rev up, almost like a space shuttle, shoot up in the air, turn off the engines, and float past Orange County to the water, turn engines back on, and shoot off. I was like, get me off this plane now. I mean, my brain, I didn't say it out loud, but my brain was like, you gotta be S-ing me. So, my friend starts laughing, goes, oh my God, I go, you didn't tell me this was gonna happen. We're in the back of the plane. It's very important, I'm back in the plane. So then they take us to the runway, they taxi, they get really loud. It's like really loud. And there's engines in the back too. That we were on Southwest, one of those planes. So so it gets really loud, you can't hear anything. Then all of a sudden you shoot up. Literally, I'm like this, the front of the plane is up there. And I'm like, we're going straight in the air. And I'm like, oh my God. And then all of a sudden you go over, and then you hear nothing. And now it's like an eternity. It's probably 30 seconds or 10, 15, 20 seconds. Everyone's floating over. I'm looking at the window. And there's Santa Ana, there's City of Orange, there's Tustin. We're just like floating out, going towards the water. Obviously, you hear one energy come on. Then you hear another. It is the trippiest thing. And ask anybody who's from an artist, they'll tell you. Anybody who's from After Dark will tell you it's the craziest takeoff. And all of a sudden, then you shoot out. I will never, ever, 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 ever do it again. 3 months later, my 2 p.m. flight gets delayed to 8. So now I'm ready. Now I know it's going to happen. I was like, give me a drink. I need a drink. I need a drink. But the flight attendants in the back of me were like, I've never done this before. They gave us free drinks too. That actually after we got in the air, they gave us free drinks.
Oh my
I'm
God.
like, it's crazy. It's crazy. But
it sounds crazy. I don't even have a fear of flying. I'm getting one like
yeah, isn't it crazy? But so like we're saying, but I was like, north back on the plane for me. I want to be in the middle somewhere. But it's just one of those kind of where we tell ourselves things we just feel comfortable.
Yes.
If I'm here or if I'm near this. But you're right. If you're in a plane, you're in a plane.
And especially, yes. Where are you going?
You're gonna,
I was like, no, let me sit I'm going to sit near the door. And they're like, why? There's 8 people on the plane.
I've been on small planes. I've been on 13-seaters, 17-seaters. I was on one where there was propellers, and it was one row of like 12 and one row of 12. And the flight attendant stood up and I was like, sit down. Why are you standing up? Sit down. I don't want any drinks. I just want to sit here. And the fight was fine after all.
Oh my God.
It was fine.
I got on a plane to I think it was New Mexico. I don't remember, I think where I was dating somebody and I was like, I must love them because there's like one row here and one row there. And I'm short and I can't even stand up. It feels like heels on my head. I just had heels on, but still. I hope they appreciate my sacrifice.
Thank you. So I like that. So that's kind of funny. I can talk to you forever, Vanessa. Thank you for being on. You have to come back. So we already talked about doing something in Spanish, but we're going to come back again in English. You guys have some great questions. But Vanessa, thanks for being on the show.
Oh my God, thank you for having me.
You're amazing.
So much fun. So much fun.
You're amazing. So we're going to talk more about this because I believe this show is about wellness, mental and physical. So you have to come back on because I always want wellness. I think that's something that's evergreen, never too much to talk about. We always need wellness stuff. And I'm thinking some later parts of the year, I might need you back on here to talk about some wellness things.
Good.
So,
we can come back to ancestral hypnosis work. We can do about that too, or other things, but absolutely. And before we hop off, I did wanted to let people know, make sure that you ask all the questions to your hypnotist, hypnotherapist. Make sure that you feel a rapport, that you trust them. Make sure that, especially if you're doing specialized things like past life regression, that they've actually studied. There are a lot of people who are now taking recordings and they're like, oh, I can repeat this and I can take people to other places, but they don't know what they're doing, right? Because I've seen this. I've actually had people call me and go, did you?
I want to talk about that for a second because I'm glad you're saying that. So what are a couple of things people can look for that are actually telltale signs that they're real?
Right. So you want to Google them, and and there may be some really great hypnotists who are a little older who maybe don't have stuff online, but I think most people now know that they need to be online. Yeah. There's no shame in asking people for their credentials. Okay. I'll pull over my thing. It's on the wall right now. Show it to you. Good. It's on my website too, where I've studied. I recently become a hypnosis educator. So I've done the hours to train others. Don't be afraid to ask these questions, because a lot of people now are feeling like they can be a healer online, which they can, but get the training. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying don't cut corners. Don't be like, I listened to 10 recordings, so now I'm a hypnotist. No, there's a lot going on that a hypnotist, So 1, don't be afraid to ask questions of where they studied. 2, look up where they studied. Is it a real place? If you want to see their certificate, ask them, do you do this often? Because there are some hypnotists who studied this thing 20 years ago and haven't done it. I'm not saying they can't have, the ability, but they may not have the facility, the energy of flow and flexibility of doing it so much that they know whatever comes up, they can handle it. You also want to see, do they have an article up? Do they have a video up? Is there any information out? Are there any testimonials? Ask them questions. Are there any stories? Because any good hypnotist will be able to be like, I got this story, this happened, and you want to know that. And ask any question, no matter how embarrassing. A hypnotist should be able to answer you and calm your fears, hold your hand, and make you feel super comfortable. Because this is your psyche. This is your unconscious, You don't
play with that. You don't want to play with that. You don't. You know, you want to be good to yourself.
Yes.
You want to be good to yourself. You want to be honest to yourself, honest with yourself. You don't want to play around with that. I mean, that part I'm totally serious about. Like, you need to be good to yourself.
And speaking on that note, with good to yourself, like if you're an emotional intuitive, if you're an empath, you know that you're sensitive. All of us are. We're dealing with our own personal transformation and the collective, right? Which is dragging. All of us are like, it's coming, it's coming. Where's the social justice? It's not here yet, right? But we're like,
yes, you're right about that, girl. Yes.
Right. We're all like, oh, and then all, you know, vaccines. We're not going to get into all the situations back and forth. Make sure that you are what you feed yourself, what you're listening to, what is the podcast you're listening to, what is the music you're listening to, what kind of background. If you had a breakup, I mean, listen to that sad song maybe once, maybe twice, but do not put it on repeat for 2 weeks. You're going to throw yourself into a depression. These are things we need to be conscious of. What are we feeding that subconscious, you know? And it could be as simple as having some plants around you. This one's not real, but I'm surrounded by real ones over here. You know what I mean? Having some sunlight. I see that baby Yoda back there. I love it. You know what I mean? Things that make us happy, that inspire our inner child. Like, we may be adults, whatever age, our inner child maybe didn't have a chance to play. Feed yourself positive things. And that doesn't mean to bypass and not feel your feelings, but it means to be mindful. Like, I never watch horror movies. I don't need that garbage. And I'm not, if you like it, anybody likes it, it's okay. We're all made differently, right? For me, I know that's not good for my psyche.
Yeah, be kind. Know yourself. Be kind to yourself. That's like a good thing. Where can they find you if they want to talk to you more or hire you or anything? Where would they want to find you?
Yeah, so look up the Biz Bruja, right? Which is the business witch, and I do use like hypnosis to help people block fears and around visibility and their business and their work. But if you don't have a business, I help you anyway. We can all do this. You find courses there, Escuela de Healing Artes, and then Instagram, the Biz Bruja, and in Espanol, Vanessa Codorniu in Espanol.
I like that. Everybody, again, this is going to be a year. I feel like it's going to be another one of those transformational years happening. 2022 is going to be very interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. I really am to see. I'm really curious to see how this year is going to go for all of us. And I'm going to do my parts this year to bring you people who are doing positive things to affect positive change in the world. That's my mission all the time, every day, and I'm trying my best to do the same. But also be real. We're going to talk to you guys like as real. We're all in this. We're the village. I see my fans know we're the village. She's part of the village now. The village helps lift each other up and also is there for each other. So that's what we do. And so now this is part of the village. So thanks for doing that. A Lot of Help is on every streaming platform search you can think of. So wherever you go to your podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, Google, it's there. A lot is 2 T's, not one. I'm not a parking lot. I'm a lot with 2 T's. So it's alotofhelp.com. It's also my website. And of course, we're on JLJ Media, my online network, over 35 shows, from being left-handed to grandparenthood, Star Wars and soaps, but also this show. So there's a playlist for this called A Lot of Help Playlist, and you can listen to all kinds of people from different walks of life talking about wellness, and pass this on to anybody. This interview, somebody needs to hear this, feel free to pass it on to them so they can hear it, audio or video. 2 choices, audio or video. So you guys are on the road, running around, doing stuff, you listen to it, but also you want to sit down and actually watch. YouTube, JLJ Media. Everyone, have a great year. We'll talk to you next time, next episode of A Lot of Help.